Yellow, ladies and gentlemen, live from the field at Northwest Stadium here in Landover, Maryland. It is Alan and Jordan for another edition of Raising Hail. We are brought to you by the fine folks at Dave and Buster's in Glen Allen. Be sure to go visit them at 4001 Brownstone Boulevard in Glen Allen, just before you get to Short Pump Town Center and eat, drink, dine, and play and catch all the games, including all the Commanders games. And Alan, yeah, today was today was certainly a day for sure for the Commanders, and obviously losing it 34-26. It looked like they had a little bit a little bit more miracle mentality in them, at least in the last 30 seconds of the game. I was in the interview room and I was telling someone else, I was telling another reporter, I was like, hey, they got the ball back against Chicago with about 30 seconds to go. We'll see what happens. And sure enough, 2 plays later, Terry McLaurin finally gets in the end zone. This place, well, it was interesting because at that point, Dallas had gone up by what, 10 or something like that, and a lot of Washington fans had started to file out a little early here. It seemed like, and then all of a sudden, the Commanders were back in it. It was tied 27-27, or we thought it was going to be tied 27-27. It was 27-26. Terry McLaurin had appeared to score the game tying touchdown, and then Austin Seibert unfortunately missed the game tying point after, and it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, I know there's some people who are like they should have went for two, but I mean the Commanders' red zone offense isn't that great, and I haven't seen much out of their like 2 point conversions or the few times they tried to do it that looks good either. Um, they're very one dimensional when they don't have Robinson back there. And there's a lot of issues that haven't been cleared up that I expected something to look a little different, but it didn't. It actually looks worse, right? And so we're on a 3 game losing streak, and I'm saying we, but just speaking figuratively, not actually we, but we're on a 3 game losing streak. To a Two of them are divisional losses,
Yeah,
which
so
which
that's
really hurts,
yeah,
right?
that's going to put them
And
further behind.
and there's a lot of things you could say, a lot of complaints you could make, but at the end of the day, these guys have to make plays, and they have to play a complete game. They're starting to look like a team that's unraveling a little bit. Like the defense looks good, the offense is bad. Special teams is inconsistent. Um, I mean, again, the cyber thing, missing the kicks. A lot of people are missing kicks nowadays in the NFL, and they seem to come at the worst possible opportunities. So I agree with the guys when they said it didn't come down to one play. They're right. It was a collection of plays, a collection of miscues, and a collection of like just really bad football from Washington today, honestly. And Dallas made them pay. It's not like Dallas did enough to win the game until the very last what 3 drives. I think that fourth quarter sequence, Dallas won the game. But prior to that, I didn't feel like either team was doing anything to really win the game. So it's really amazing that you can get 41 points, I think, total scored in the fourth quarter. And my question as a Washington Commander watcher is where was that at the first 3 quarters? And Terry McLaurin talked about that too. Like they have to start better. They have to play more consistent. It can't be in spurts. And in order to take the next step, which is either winning the division or getting into the playoffs, you've got to build more consistency across the board. And I'm gonna say it again. Where's De'Ami Brown? Where's Luke McCaffrey? Where's these other guys? Like I know on the stat sheet it looks like he's trying to get him the ball, but in the game it just doesn't look like it. It's just too many far in between. And I didn't see Terry until the last play, basically.
Yeah.
So there just needs to be a more concentrated focus on getting the ball to the playmakers on this team. There's not many playmakers on the team, and I'm not trying to be mean, but let's be honest. This is a roster that's below average when you stack them up person to person, right? So the few playmakers you have, you need to find a way to get them the ball. I knew CD Lamb was on the field. Didn't matter if Cooper Rush was the quarterback. We knew he was getting the ball or at least getting targeted like every other play. They've got to do a better job of getting Terry more involved in the offense. They got to do a better job getting everybody more involved, especially when they lose guys like Robinson. And lastly, I just want to say every time a quarterback plays bad, they're not hurt. There's nothing wrong with Jaden Daniels, guys. Like you can look at how many design runs did he have today? How many times did he go back to his old
He had
ways of
74 rushing yards
yeah,
today.
and some of those rushes were with contact. Like he's not shying away from contact, and they're not shying away from using him, which lets you know he's healthy enough. So if he plays bad, he's a rookie. You're gonna have those moments. He's not having a good game, and that spans back to the Eagles game. He didn't have a good game. He wasn't hurt. So going forward, again, if he has a mid game, again, I don't want to hear excuses about him being hurt. He's just not making plays, and he's just not being consistent because he's a rookie.
Yeah, and it was tough for the rushing game right from the jump because Brian Robinson sprained his ankle. It seemed like almost like a knee injury initially, uh, just based on the replays and everything. But yeah, the we've talked about it for weeks on end now. Just that the running game needs to complement the passing game, and right now Washington doesn't really have a running game, and so they're forced to be one dimensional. They can kind of scheme up some things, like you said, with the designed runs for Jaden Daniels, but he can only do so much. He can only do so much. I mean, Terry McLaurin had 5 receptions for 102 yards. Noah Brown, six six receptions for 71 yards. And Zach Ertz had 6 catches for 38 yards.
There's no way Noah Brown and Zach Ertz should have more targets than Terry McLaurin. I'm sorry. There's no way.
Yeah.
Diggs didn't even play. I can Mitchell's a really good cornerback in Philly. I can give you that a little bit. But I can't give you that today. Like he needs more than I'm looking at the sheet now. He needs more than 6 targets. That's unacceptable. And if Brown has 10, then Terry needs to have 12. Like you just need to get him the ball, man. You have to. You're not gonna win a lot of games, especially against upper echelon opponents. Let's put it this way: teams 500 and better. You're not going to be the majority of them if you don't get your playmakers the ball. That's every team in the NFL across the board. If you find a team that doesn't use their playmakers, prime example, last year's Falcons, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. Pickens, he's kind of a one-dimensional wide receiver, but the Steelers found a way to get him the ball. The Giants, we watched Malik Neighbors get targeted 18 times when he came down here. He didn't get targeted today, really.
Yeah.
And guess what the score was? They got obliterated, right? Now, granted, you're not going to win a game just with a Malik Neighbors, but in the case of the Washington Commanders, these games are so close and so competitive. Your turning points, the key moments, those are when your playmakers shine through. We get Jaden Daniels opportunities, like whether it be on the ground. I think he had a nice little run down here for a touchdown. They find a way to do that for him. Find a way for Terry because it has to be a two-man team.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think the word you used was spiral.
Oh yeah,
And so I think at this point, yeah, they're 3 in a row they've lost now. And so they're fortunately today, it seemed like today was kind of a crazy day in the league. So from a playoff perspective, it doesn't seem like they're losing too much ground in terms of the wild card race, but yeah, I mean, they were favored by what, 10.5 points coming into today
yeah.
against Dallas and or something like that.
It was 10 and a half,
So this was a game they should have won. This
and
was a game they needed to win.
I'm only looking because I'm checking the final score on that Seahawks game. So yeah, let's say hypothetically Seahawks win the division. If they're in the wild card fight with the Cardinals, they have the head to head with them. But you don't want to be at that 10 win mark. I think the safest spot for a playoff team in both conferences, if you ask me, is to somehow have 11 wins. If you're at 10, then it's going to get a little dicey. Luckily for the Commanders, like the one team that they would probably have to wild card against they've beat. You would want to root for the Buccaneers to win their division, and then hypothetically land into a wild card fight with, like, say, the Packers and the Falcons, right? Because there's 7 spots now. So the last couple of times we've seen those 7 seed people, they're usually around 9 and 8 anyway. So that's why I said the magic number is 10. But forget the playoffs. You should beat the Cowboys, right? You should beat this Dallas team. You really should, and you didn't. And it was a struggle. It was a grind. Like the
The first
last,
half of this game was boring.
yeah, the first, like the this is the first time since they've made their transition to maybe this team is good in my mind that I felt like, wow, this looks like a strain. Like everything just looks difficult. And the defense did what they could, but this again was identified as the weakest point of this team. And once again, I think the defense stood strong as they possibly could without support from the offense. And Jaden said that, and I think Coach Quinn kind of hinted to that too. But there's only so many more losses that you can take consecutively where the message just starts to fall on deaf ears, right? The whole chin up, next time we just got to execute, all that coach speak, player speak stuff. Like, nah, people gotta wake up.
Yeah, I mean, there's we're past sort of the shine of the newness of a new season has come and gone. We're in week 12. We've turned the page on week 12. There's 5 weeks left in the season. And so now it like you said, to your point, it's not, at what point are the guy is the locker room just gonna go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Turn the page, keep your head up. This is a tough loss, but it's really just you've got a game against Tennessee. Tennessee is not very good. Another game that they should probably win, but Indianapolis or not Indiana, Tennessee beat Houston today, so they're riding pretty high right now, at least beating another semi decent team, at least in the AFC. The Texans were kind of like Washington. They stumbled a little bit the last few weeks, found themselves at 7-4. Now they're 7-5 as well. But I mean, they this last 4 or 5 week stretch of the schedule, they're going to be limping into the bye week for sure
Yeah.
after next week. But they really have a chance here to really right the ship, especially against teams like New Orleans and against Atlanta and Tennessee. I mean, the game here against Philadelphia is going to be massive, I feel like, especially now in terms of the wild card battle. I mean, at that point, I'm sure Philadelphia could have the division wrapped up, but yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where they let this one get away from them. They knew they were up against a tough uphill battle against Philadelphia. The Steelers game, I think, was another instance of the game getting away from them. So they're in this spiral now. They need to get out of it. They need to find a way out of it. I mean, they had 10 days off to get as healthy as they possibly could. I know the offensive line is really beat up, and I think that's probably a contributing factor as well. Even though we had talked to some of the linemen, I guess, a few weeks ago, and just kind of gotten a little bit of a inside scoop about just sort of the offensive line and how they all gel and work together and everything like that. But when you're all
He has to stay healthy. They don't have a lot of depth. They lost 2 offensive linemen today. One, I think, was confirmed the concussion. Hurt a lot. I don't know how they overcome that, other than you know, you got to believe that there's a way to scheme past that. I'm at the point now where if if I'm like Terry McLaurin, if I'm Terry McLaurin's agent, his family, his friends, just be like, yo, you need to just go into Cliff's office, sit down with him and Jaden and say, I need the ball. In order for this team to compete, in order for us to win and close out these tight games, I have to have the ball. It cannot be towards the end of the game where you got to make some miraculous 86-yard touchdown run. The pass was beautiful. The route was beautiful, which led me to think that you could have probably did this way earlier. That was not a hard thing to do. Like you went post right into the zone. The ball was dropped right over top of the zone. You caught the ball and you took off and you outran everybody. We've actually joked in the press box and on air about how Terry McLaurin is fast, but he doesn't have breakaway speed. And God, we saw breakaway speed. So I'm like, dude, get him the ball. Like it's just that simple. And I'm trying not to get mad. And I don't want to always blame Cliff, but geez, man, he is a top receiver. I can see if you had a plethora of weapons and you're like, oh man, it's really hard to make everybody happy. It's not hard when you don't have a running game to make your receiver, your number one receiver, targeted at least double digits. Noah Brown, no disrespect to Noah Brown, but you're not going to win games with him getting 10 targets and Ertz getting 8 targets. That to me says that you're willingly looking away from your number one target. If that's how the scheme is, if that's what's going to happen consistently, because I bet we can go back and look since that Bears game, people have been forcing him away from Terry McLaurin, and if that's the adjustment the league has made, then it's over for the Commanders. It really is. They're not going to win. They're not going to win another game if they don't get Terry McLaurin the ball and get the ball in his hands, because he is the playmaker, the only playmaker they have, and then find a way to use the rest of those guys. It has to be a team effort.
It makes me think about did Keyshawn Johnson write? What did he write? Throw me the damn ball. Did he
Yeah,
write a book or something like that? Or
either he wrote a book or
throw me the damn ball. That's what Terry need. Terry seems like such a down to earth guy. He
he's
probably
cool.
would never do
No,
that.
he wouldn't.
But he just like you said, he needs to go into Cliff's office and be like, Cliff, throw me the damn ball.
Like
Let me get
something,
open.
something.
Let me do my thing. Like, yeah, I mean, it's tough goings right now, and yeah, I think
The
cer-
positive, no defensive injuries that we know of, right?
nah, not
I
that
didn't.
I'm aware
Yeah,
of.
so that's a positive. Excuse me. They again, they're a solid defense. They're well coached. The secondary is always going to be an issue. I don't think you can fix that. But the guys up front make a way. And again, I saw disruptive, well coached football when they gang tackle people, people going for the ball. Like that's something that's coached, and a mentality on the defensive side of the ball. They are getting a turnover every game basically. They had an opportunity in the Eagles game. They just didn't jump on the fumble, but they're creating opportunities to help the offense. Offense has to do their job. And again, we're not, I'm not in the business. I'm going to say we're not. I'm not in the business of blaming rookies. So Cliff and the rest of these guys around the rookie need to figure it out, right? The rookie's going to do what he can, but to ask him to elevate a franchise consistently in his first season is, I think, unrealistic. So guys got to do better collectively around him. And I'm sure if we mentioned that to Terry, he'd probably say the same thing. Like it's not on Jalen. Like, yeah, we want him to play better, but we have to support him, right? And that starts again on the sidelines and the weekly planning all the way into the game. Because what I saw today was not Terry, Jalen save us, and
Yeah,
that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. Not
yeah,
not his rookie season.
yeah, and like I said, Tennessee is not a slouch. I guess now.
Oh
I
no, they're
mean,
still a slouch, but
but it just seems like we don't want to fall back into the same old Washington sort of thing, because it seems like the whole mantra for this year has just been, this is a new chapter. This is a new, we're looking forward, and they've got the quarterback of the future in Jaden Daniels, and you don't want to see them. You don't want to see such a good start to the season go to waste. And right now, they've kind of hit that little lull, that midseason lull. They need to start climbing their way out of the hole and get back into a position to where they're confident, they're having fun, they're enjoying playing on the field with each other and everything else. So, you know, it's gut check time, really,
Yeah.
is what it
I
come
mean,
down to.
and people just need to be honest. You're not a great team. You've been playing good football. Get back to playing good football. There's no pressure on the Commanders. Like you're playing with house money. Like I told you before we came on, the Washington Commanders, the minute they hit 7 wins, have been playing with house money. You only go back to being bad if you allow yourself to go back to being bad. Like if you put all this pressure on you, there's no pressure. Just go out and win football games. Winnable game today. You let it get away. Steelers game was a winnable game. You let it get away. Who cares how good the team is? If you're in this situation, you have the ability to win the game, close it out. You have winnable games coming up with pretty much everybody on the schedule, even the Eagles. Who knows? It's going to be a winnable. There are going to be moments that this game is winnable. You have to be successful in those moments. So Washington just needs to go back to the basics. Whatever was their philosophy that got them ready for this season and so forth and so on. They need to do that and stop listening to these excuses of injuries and tired and they need a bye and all this and that. Winnable game today. Very winnable game today, regardless of everything else. Very winnable game. They didn't get it done. That needs to change.
And yeah, we've harped on the offense and the defense, the special teams. This was the worst special teams game all year.
Oh yeah, I forgot all
I
about the
mean,
kickoff return.
between the missed field goals, Austin Seibert missed two, or well, he missed one and then missed the extra point, right?
Yeah.
Or I'll have to let
He
me.
missed the extra point and he missed the field goal. He might have missed 2 extra points,
I
but
don't know if he missed. Let me see.
I will say this while you're looking at it. I will say this. Look, I don't have an issue with him kicking it to Turbin because well he dropped the ball, right? If a returner drops the ball, he shouldn't be able to pick it up and score.
Yeah,
I mean, at that point, it's not on the coach. Now, if he kick it to him, he feels it cleanly and he scores. The probability of him returning that kick is always going to exist if you kick it to him, right? I don't think in that moment you had to be afraid to kick it to him, right? Even before that, he didn't show any signs of running like breaking free or anything like
right.
that. Like
Yeah,
I felt like that's just not something you're really thinking about in that particular time. But man, just you got to know who you're kicking it to. Even with all I just said, you still got to know who you're kicking it to, and the players got to know too. There should have been a little bit more discipline in their assignments in their lanes. But man, that was a great play.
yeah, and yeah, the obviously the failed PAT was really what did them in, and Seibert was 1 for 2 today, and he was what? He was 0 for 2 on
Extra points.
extra
Yeah,
points.
I was about to say.
Wow.
I think he missed two. He
Good
missed
lord.
one when they were down on this side, and then he missed the one at the
Yeah.
end. Yeah,
So that certainly explains why he
because
was
it was like a knuckleball.
yeah, that explains why he was the way he was in the locker room, and he was gracious enough to
He's
answer questions
Yeah,
from
he's
reporters.
dejected because he thinks he's gonna get cut tomorrow.
Yeah, and just what Dan Quinn needs to do at this point in the season, on top of everything else, is to try out some new place kickers.
Well, you know what I'm gonna say? Hey, it shouldn't come down to a kick. So there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, they left. Yeah, I mean, Seibert left 5 points. The difference was 8. Yeah, you never know. I mean, what could have been? What could have been against the Dallas Cowboys today? And yeah, I mean, today it was a good crowd. It didn't seem like it was overwhelmingly Cowboys fans in the building. Obviously, the Cowboys are on a down year this year as well. No Dak Prescott and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was a good day. I saw Jay Z. I literally walked. Jay Z walked past me today. I felt the aura of Hove today, and that the probably as close as I'll ever get to Jay Z in my life.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, it was cool. You know, Cowboys, Commanders, Redskins, whatever you want to call it. The rivalry brings out plenty of people, and the sideshow with Jerry Jones and everything else. But yeah, I think I don't have anything else to add at this point. What do you any sort of final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I mean, just that at this point, I can understand frustration from Commander fans, but also because I'm not a Commander fan, I would remind you guys that again, this season is just year one of a new, like everything, new coaching staff, new quarterback, and a bunch of other new things. So you need to give it time. I think you're still on the right trajectory, but there's nothing wrong with being frustrated losing one to the Cowboys in general and then games that are winnable. So I understand some of the gripes. I'm fully prepared to hear some of those tomorrow morning as well. But at this point, all you can do is move on to the Tennessee Titans.
Yep. Yep. So I think we're going to move on to the Tennessee Titans as well, at least for today. And short week this week with Thanksgiving, so we'll have as much Commanders coverage on the radio tomorrow on ESPN 1061 as we possibly can throughout the course of the morning and the afternoon. And obviously, be sure to head over to our YouTube page. We'll post Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels post game press conferences. We'll also create some short form content using some of the audio and video we got out of the Commanders locker room after the loss today. And yeah, should be interesting week for sure. And we'll be right back here next Sunday after the Commanders take on the Tennessee Titans. Again, we want to thank Dave and Buster's and Glen Allen for being a sponsor of Raisin Hail and being supportive of all of our Commanders coverage this season. So thank you guys. Thank you to the fine folks at Dave and Buster's for supporting us, and thank you the watcher, the viewer, the listener, whatever. And thanks for tuning in and checking us out. Be sure to like our pages, follow us on social media if you haven't already, and download the ESPN 1061 app to listen to us live. And yeah, we got all the best sports talk in Richmond and all the best Commanders coverage you can get. And we're looking forward to bringing you all sorts of stuff throughout the course of the rest of the season. So yeah, for Alan, I'm Jordan. This has been Raisin Hail, and thanks for watching. And we will catch you guys next week.